Hi everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I'm using a new recording software, so hopefully this is okay. The volume is not too low. Um, I'm not restricted in time using this software, so that's a good thing. In this video, I want to go over a PDF, which will be in the links in the description box below. Okay, always look in the description box below. Generally, there's a text I found called "The Questions of Queen Sheba and the Answers of King Solomon." Okay, we all know in the scriptures, Yeshua said himself, "Behold, the Queen of the South came to, in amazement of Solomon's wisdom, and behold, a greater than Solomon is here." And so there's actually a text of the questions Queen Sheba asked King Solomon. And we have two versions here, okay? Page 14 and page 19 on your PDF, because I include all the extra information, everything I have in the book. We have the Armenian version and we have a Syriac version. The Syriac version seems to be the better, but I suggest just reading both and comparing both, because there's some information that is that in both that is very useful. There's some stuff in this text. Is this some regular text that, whatever? No. I believe there is validity in this text, and I just wanted to talk about some. I'm not going to go through the whole text. It's not very long, but there are some highlights that I was just blown back by that I really want to share, okay? So, really cool. This is another text in our arsenal that nobody knows about. I mean, I've never heard anybody talk about this text. So I found it in one of the books I bought. Recently, I actually found it on the corners of YouTube recently. Realized it was in one of the books that I recently bought, and the source of this text is in a huge volume of history. That's hundreds and hundreds of dollars if you want to buy it. And this is the only sacred text / scripture that's in the entire volume. So you would have to spend hundreds of dollars for this text, which is pretty ridiculous. So links in the description box below. I have an audio book of this text, and I have the PDF, which you're seeing on your screen. And this text, I believe, is inherently valid. Yes, some things may be lost in translation, but you have to read these things with discernment and use your own biblical knowledge and apply it accordingly. You can't just blindly read it and just say, well, I don't plainly see this in black and white. You have to use discernment, okay? Because things get lost in translation, etc. And luckily we have two versions of this text to compare. So, and sadly, I do think the information in this text is kind of lost in translation, but I believe this stuff is valid. And we're going to talk about that, okay? So let's just get right to it. Of course, I just suggest reading the whole text, but there's only 4 questions that I just want to go over because it's really amazing. Question number 2 gets into some cosmology. Now, this turns me off right away. I'm like, oh, they're saying the Earth is a sphere. Like, this is a false text. Because we know the flat Earth model is biblically biblical fact. But no, that's not referring to a globe Earth. That is referring to the sphere of the firmament, the sphere of the dome of our flat Earth model. You have to read both translations to see that. So it gets into some pretty deep biblical cosmology, which I think has to be tested. So all you calendar enthusiasts out there, I would put this stuff to the test and see if it matches up to our calendar, if we could discern what exactly the text is truly saying. So I'll just leave that at that. The next question, we'll get into stuff that's really astounding here, okay? Question number 3. Let's see if we can find it. Here we go. And we need both versions. We need the Armenian and the Syriac version to compare. This actually validates things we're seeing in the Lost Psalms of David. It validates what we see in that Gospel of Mary Magdalene, okay, that I recently brought forth, that I believe were real teachings of Yeshua. So this text actually confirms this stuff. And what are we talking? The thing I want to highlight here is that, all right, here is what we really want to pay attention to. When the creation shall be no more, okay? Eventually, we're going to go into the millennial reign, and then we're going to go into the white throne judgment, and I don't know, there's not going to be male and female anymore. There's reason to believe in studying the text that we will, like everything, the text tell us, we see this in the Lost Psalms of David, we see this in this text right on your screen, I see this in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, that everything, from the very root that everything was created, maybe at day one of creation, maybe before day one of creation, hence before the foundation of the earth, is going to come back to its original spiritual form in the very end. And so there'll be the end of flesh, and it's an amazing revelation we really can't conceive of, but we're seeing this in the text. So here Queen Sheba asked King Solomon, before the existence of everything, where was the creator of all, and after the destruction of all, in what place shall the immovable dwell? And he just goes into the incomprehensible nature of God. But what he says, he talks about, he knew Yahuwah's planned beyond the millennial reign, beyond the white throne judgment. King Solomon, it was understood in ancient times that this concept that we're just bringing to the table now, that everything in its most basic root conception of creation, spiritual root, is going to end up that way. And Yahuwah brings things into physical manifestation. We're divided into male and female. We're in our sin nature, that gets redeemed. Eventually male and female get redeemed into one. Maybe flesh will be no more. We don't know. But this stuff we're seeing in the text, and this is his plan for humanity. So here we go. King Solomon says, before the formation of beings, the Creator dwelt by himself and was completed in his essential nature and rejoiced in unlimited goodness. And when the creation shall be no more, that is what we're looking for, when the manifestation of the physical shall be no more, he in like manner shall dwell in his immutability. Now all are in him, and then the souls of the pure shall be in him, and he in them. He will glorify and be glorified immutably and in like manner. Very amazing. Let's just take a look at the Syriac translation, because that is also relevant in understanding what this text is really saying. Page 19. What are we looking at? We're looking for question 3. Okay, it's jumping on me. Okay. King Solomon's answer. Let's read the Syriac translation. And this is interesting. This translation gets into the wedding supper of the Lamb, and maybe I think it gives hints into when the wedding supper of the Lamb is really going to take place. And this text is saying that that's going to take place after the manifestation of his physical creation, after flesh, after the white throne judgment. I don't know. So let's see what King Solomon says. Before the Creator made all this, he was in himself. That is, he existed and took pleasure and dwelt in the contemplation of his goodness alone. And after he has undone everything that he has established, right? That's just another way of wording what we're really highlighting in this segment of the video, I really want to highlight. For the honor of his creative ability, here we go, undone everything that he has established for the honor of his creative ability. He will dwell at the banquet of the just and in the hearts of those who please him, remaining endlessly in his kingdom. As far as change is concerned, there is no alteration for him. So, revelations I've got is that, like, our spiritual nature are in the resemblance of stars, and maybe it was like that in the beginning, and it'll be like that in the end, and it all has to do with what's in our hearts. Like Yahuwah's creation, our spiritual, the bare root of our spiritual nature, who he created us, the foundation of the world, has to do with our hearts, and that's a reflection of what's in God's heart, because it's the heart that matters. And when you read in your Bibles, right, you look at a woman lustfully in your heart. It's as if you do it in real life. It's what is in our hearts. That's what we take with us. So let's go back to the Arminian translation because it says it a little more clearly. And I just want to highlight how this validates the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. Okay? So, here we go. And when the creation shall be no more. Now, here we are. The very first thing we read in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, which is what we're at right here, Peter asked Yeshua, will matter be destroyed or not? And Yeshua answers, all nature, all formations, all creatures exist and with one another, and they will be resolved again in their own roots. For the nature of matter is resolved into the roots of its own nature alone. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. And you know what? We see this doctrine in the lost Psalms of David. We're seeing this in this text. We're seeing this in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. This is truth, guys. We got at least 3 witnesses here. This is truth. So I just wanted to point it out. This is stuff we should take seriously. We should be studying this text. Okay. So another question that I found really astounding, we'll find it on page 16. We'll start in the Arminian translation. Question number 8. Now this is astounding. Queen Sheba asked King Solomon, the plant tied to tiara, I don't know what that means, but not by nature, and rays of flame were fixed as hair, and it wove a crown of glory for the unworthy sons. Okay. Let's read what King Solomon has to say about that. Excuse me, it's jumping around. Okay. King Solomon's answer. You have heard that God appeared to Moses through the burning bush, and from that vision came forth questions and variations of words. Okay, that's the Syriac version is a little. Both versions are important to understand what this text is talking about, and why I'm highlighting this is to compare the Odes of Solomon, Ode 1, and then there are no answers, but it opens a whole rabbit hole of revelation. So for those who have ears to hear, let them hear. 20. We're on what are we looking for? Question 8. Okay. Here's another way of putting what we just read. A plant has woven an unusual and unnatural crown which has manifested fire as its splendid flowers, and the Hebrew weaves crowns for the glory of the sun, consisting of bitter branches. So King Solomon is saying this weird parable has to do with Moses appearing, God appearing to Moses in the thorn bush that was of fire. And King Solomon says this. He says, "You have indeed heard that the Lord appeared in a thorn bush, and flowers shone out of its branches in the flames of glory, while its leaves did not scorch up in its burning. Now we say that he is the God of Moses, and we worship that eternal being, for we got utterances." Okay. Very interesting. Now when we go back to the Arminian translation, and then check it out. This is amazing, because I think this is unlocking what the Odes of Solomon 1 is really talking about. And I think this is also another witness, another strong piece of evidence that King Solomon indeed wrote the Odes of Solomon. So let's read Queen Sheba's question again. The plant tied at tiara, I don't know what that means, but not by nature, and rays of flame were fixed as hair. She's talking about the crown of thorns, the thorn bush that God appeared to Moses in, is a spiritual crown. It's like a spiritual nature. Now let me take you to the Odes of Solomon, Ode 1. The Lord is on my head like a crown, and I shall not be without him. They wove for me a crown of truth, and it caused thy branches to bud in me. For if it not be withered crown, but which buds, for it is not like a withered crown which buds not, but thou live upon my head, and thou have blossomed upon my head. Your fruits are full grown and perfect; they are full of thy salvation. So when we compare these things, it's amazing. It's amazing. So I think this serves as a witness that what we're reading in these questions of the Queen of Sheba are real. This is real doctrine. This is a valid text. Very amazing. So something to study. Um, Another astounding thing that we could see in this text that helps unlock a mystery in our Bibles that is really close to us. And I recently covered this on our channel. So we're going to go to question 10. Okay, I hope people can follow along. Let me just, before we get into this, let me take you to the book of Jude. Here we are in the book of Jude, verse 12. And we know the book of Jude is about the fallen angels, which we read about in the book of Enoch. The book of Jude quotes the book of Enoch as scripture. But there's a very peculiar verse 12 and verse 13. I covered this on my channel about the sea foam of shame in our scriptures and how we can find this in Hosea 10:7, and it has something to do with the fallen angels, their spiritual manifestation in our physical reality. Sea foam is a spiritual manifestation of the condemnation of fallen angels. Okay, this is what the Bible is teaching us. But it tells us that one of the spiritual manifestations of fallen angels, clouds, they are without water. Okay, you need to read the verse in context. A lot of this stuff are mysteries. But it's very interesting when we look in the book of Enoch, okay, we're not given answers, but here in chapter 8, the book of Enoch tells us all these things the fallen angels used to corrupt man. Okay, hey, ladies, makeup was ordained by the fallen angels. It's a satanic thing. It's right here in the book of Enoch. The making of weapons, mixing around, smithing of metals and all that kind of stuff. But it's interesting, some of the witchcraft that was brought on to corrupt the whole earth, that brought on Noah's flood. It says this one fallen angel, Ezekiel, taught the knowledge of the clouds. That's all we know. We don't know what the knowledge, but there's apparently some tree of knowledge of good and evil, satanic knowledge of the clouds. And it's no coincidence that in the book of Jude, we hear about the fallen angels or clouds, they are without water. Very interesting, okay? We're not given answers, but there's something to this. Now, in the questions of Sheba, question 10, it seems to talk about this. It's talking about kings, the shame of kings, and we know fallen angels the Antichrist is going to be a fallen angel. They come down to earth and they deceive humans with all their signs and wonders and miracles and all that stuff. So the text is not very clear. You need to study both translations, but this is a mystery that's beginning to be unraveled. It says, what is that filthy thing which brings transformed, fosters kings, honored by clouds, proceeds to the fields with excrement? Okay, we really can compare the book of Jude, verse 12, to what's being said here. And King Solomon says a parable that I think gets lost in translation about the righteous and the wicked. Let's just look at the Arminian translation really quick. 21, question 10. Here we are. An unclean thing that brings up kings, that is softened. It is honored in clouds. We're talking about fallen angels. And is sprinkled with change. Yeah, very amazing, guys. So compare this to the book of Jude, verse 12. And the book of Jude, verse 12, takes us to the book of Enoch. The book of Enoch, chapter 8. Very amazing. And we're not given answers, but there's some secret fallen angel knowledge being revealed here. Very amazing. So that's really it, guys. I just wanted to share this stuff for those willing to study this text. These are things to really look at. Really amazing. I hope people can follow along with me rambling on. Okay. All links will be in the description box below. Thank you for tuning in. God bless you. Okay. I have to figure out how to end this. Thanks for tuning in, guys.